Greetings, everyone. Welcome to our seminar on working remotely and keeping your culture alive. My name is Shael Risman. I'm CEO of Pace Technical. This is just one in a series of webinars that we've been doing, free webinars we've been giving, just trying to keep our fingers on the pulse of technology during this insanity, and making sure that we're trying to keep everybody in the loop about the best ways in which to deal with this new reality that we're dealing with. So thanks for joining us. I'm just going to click off the video so it doesn't block any of the presentation, and off we go. All right. So here we are, our webinar agenda for today. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about us, as if you don't know. I'm not sure how many people are on or familiar with PACE, but we're going to talk a little bit about us. We're going to talk about this crisis that we're all dealing with right now very briefly, and how it is affecting the way that we do business. We're going to talk about going remote, and what I like to call the 3 C's of going remote. Obviously dealing with, trying to maintain your culture in remote settings, which is what this is really all about, and how your ownership and decision-making affects that, and encouraging your staff and your team to innovate and take risks and do it yourself, as well as my favorite topic, which is transparency and vulnerability as a leader. And then we're just going to have a brief Q&A session in case anyone has any questions. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I welcome any questions. I'll get to them all at the end, so please feel free to go. I believe it's at the bottom of the screen. You can post the Q&A, and we're good to go. So this really is just our marketing team having some fun with me. As you know, I said, my name is Shael. Here's some fun facts about me. I am a musician, and I host Facebook live streams every Sunday between 8 and 9 to help me keep my sanity, and maybe spread a little fun around for an hour where we're just around the piano singing some songs and having everybody forget where they are for a little while. I've spoken at many conferences about culture within business. Thankfully, I've been asked a few times, certainly within the IT industry, to go and speak about this, which is great. And I also am the host of a very successful fundraising campaign for the Center for Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto, called One Brave Night, where we assembled some of the best music talent in the region to perform live and take donations, and we've raised about $60,000 up until now over the last 2 or 3 years. So feel free to get some more information from my Facebook page. I'm pretty easy to look up. So here's PACE. We are, for those of you who don't know who we are an IT managed service provider, and we support technology-driven businesses in the GTA, mostly to small and mid-sized businesses. We are a 4-time winner of Canada's Best Places to Work. We were top 5 2 years. We're extraordinarily proud of that, and worked very hard to keep it. We're widely considered one of the key innovators for managed services and culture in North America. As we said, we are featured experts on company culture and many key industry events such as Exchange, DataCon, SchnizFest, and IT Nation. So we're really proud of that, and we've taken a lot of bruises and learning the hard way about what culture can bring to success in business. So besides being a title of a pretty awesome Supertramp album, crisis, what crisis? Like, what are we in the middle of here? Is it, I'm certainly not trying to play down the importance of or discount the true gravity of the pandemic, but how do you deal with a crisis? How are we dealing with a crisis? Certainly, we're in the middle of something that has no precedent, that we've never seen it, certainly not in the modern world, and we've never seen anything like it before. And like in any crisis, the leadership during that crisis is integral to how and what you get out of it. One of my favorite quotes about being in crisis is from John F. Kennedy, and he said, when written in Chinese, the word crisis is composed of two characters. One represents danger, and the other represents opportunity. And this is the best way I can look at this. You have to have, the knowledge of how profound this crisis effect is having on business and community and society in general. But on the other hand, there's a number of opportunities that open itself up, and it really brings out the best in people. You go back to things like 9/11, and you can see that every single day. So how you deal with a crisis is what really matters. It's not the crisis itself. Will you let it, completely throw you off? Will you start pulling your hair out? Will you start blaming everybody else? Will it derail you? Or is it going to make you stronger? And is it going to make you better? And that is a distinct choice that I think people need to make within this situation. And that's what we're trying to do, certainly at Pace. And having a great culture, whether you're in an office or working remotely, each one comes with its own sets and challenges, and certainly we'll get to that as well. At Pace, as far as dealing with this crisis, it's our job, and we saw our job as to ensure that our clients could continue to work during this crisis. And the only way for us to do that was ensuring our own ability to work remotely with the drop of a hat. So we were up and going within about 48 hours, and we have to constantly, maintain getting about 2,000 people or more in the Greater Toronto area working remotely. And it is a huge job. But, certainly with our team, we try and make it very, very evident why we are doing this. And why we are doing it is because these people that we deal with, our clients, are relying on us to be able to do their business and keep them going. It's of the utmost importance that we know what we're doing during this situation. And of course, going remote is what the big deal is at this point in time. Some of us, certainly in any business, never thought for a second they'd be doing business remotely. And here we are. So, when you're leading a remote team, and again, not all of us know how to deal with remote teams. There are specific differences and challenges with each kind of way that you look at things. There's advantages and disadvantages. Certainly when you go from a culture of working in the office to a culture of going remote, you start to lose the nuances of your interaction. You lose body language and tone. It's kind of like writing an email as opposed to having a phone conversation. There's a lot of the little language nuances that you learn, that you lose. And verbal and nonverbal behaviors are vital to successful understanding and collaboration. And you can't really duplicate that in a video meeting. Also, people who work remotely, and I don't probably have to say this to anybody out there, there's more to be distracted by. We're easily distracted by other tasks, your dogs, your cats, your kids, and there's other diversions. So a lot of times it's harder to engage people who are working remotely. And the last one is even more profound, I think. We're all very social creatures, even if we, some of us think we're introverts and really relish being alone in the house, which certainly, I enjoy it to a certain degree as well. But, being physically in the same place, it serves a primitive human need. We seek the contact of others, and we try and avoid isolation. So all of these things work into a challenge in taking a team that is used to working in an office to working remotely. So these are the 3 C's of how I see working remotely, breaking it down very, very basically, trying to lead a remote team. Number 1 is clarity. When you don't have shoulder-to-shoulder collaboration, there are a lot of things that can fall through the cracks. It's hard to keep track of everything. So you really need to define your edges. You need to really be clear about who needs to do what, about the path as a leader that you're taking in the company, and that you're taking the company, and not holding back on any information that will help your teams understand why you're doing the things you're doing. And I know as a leader, and we'll get onto that in a little bit later, but I know as a leader, it can be very, tempting to kind of hold back information and not give out too much weakness or direction. But really, in cases like this, when you're not seeing people face to face, it's so important to ensure that everyone is clear on the destination. Creativity. You want to make an effort to create forums where people can actually address the tough issues that you're dealing with and they're immersing themselves in daily, and encourage them to bring out their best ideas, and encourage reasonable risks. And that is, not only key to success in managing a remote team, but certainly in everyday success of a business. And the last thing, but possibly the most important thing when dealing with remote work, is connection, human connection. It can be totally isolating, as we all know. We're about 5 or 6 weeks into this now, and I know a lot of us are bashing our heads against the wall. It's your responsibility as a leader of a remote team to be the bridge between you and your people, and between your people and themselves. They're going to be looking to you for guidance during this time. Certainly for when we're talking about ownership and decision making, when a team takes ownership of its problems, the problem gets solved. It is true on the battlefield, and it's true in business, and it's true in life. Couldn't be more true. Jocko Willink is the co-author of Extreme Ownership, which is a business Bible, certainly, that we try to take a lot of inspiration from for our own company. And so as a leader, you want to be able to share, to show who's in charge, but you also want to be able to make sure that your team is empowered and able to do the jobs that they are hired to do. You want to create autonomy for them. Nobody wants to spend their time being issued tasks and a task list that they can complete and move on to the next one. Certainly, if they can create their own task list and do it, that's a whole other story. And a lot of people really, really thrive in that environment. But you want to be able to allow your team to do this themselves to a certain degree. As an owner in this situation, you want to be able to surround yourself with a lot of different attitudes, but all along the same lines. You want to portray honesty and integrity. You want to give your staff a sense of confidence, and certainly be a source of inspiration and commitment and passion and great communication. And the way that you can hold on to the ownership and the decision making and be able to have your staff participate in it is fourfold for us. And that is establishing great KPIs. Key performance indicators of your staff performance are fantastic, and they don't have to be just put in place in the office. These have to be performance indicators of productivity anywhere that they're working. At Pace, we have some great when it comes to being able to complete reactive tickets, resolution times, all that stuff. Those are key for us to be able to monitor how we are doing with our clients and how we are doing with our own workflow coming in. So we want to be able to monitor that so the staff are aware of their own productivity and making sure that we're still doing the job that we need to do. As an owner, you want to go to your team and asking the question, what do you think? When your team comes to you to ask your opinion, you can turn around and ask them what they think. It's what I do on a normal day, frankly, mostly because I'm far more interested in their opinion than I am in my own on this kind of thing, because I miss a lot of stuff when it comes to that. You can vary the question a little bit, but you have to keep asking that question. Every time you ask one of your team what they think, they feel empowered. And we have to continue to do that. Again, along the same lines, we don't want to offer ideas. We want to offer questions. You want to help people work through the answer themselves by helping them come up with ideas and further asking questions and prompting them to do it, and interactively participating with them and coming up with a decision. And a lot of times, certainly what we like to do at Pace is we want to say yes as many times as we possibly can. Yes, let's do it. Sometimes we even do a decision if we kind of disagree. obviously we don't want to go with a decision that's going to give, the entire team half a year off in the middle of a busy season. But, we want to allow people's ideas to be implemented. It's one thing to learn how to make a decision. It's another to learn that you can make the decision yourself. If we help our people believe that they can make the decision, it's a big step in teaching them how to empower themselves and be able to do their own autonomous work. And certainly in a remote environment, this couldn't be any more important. One of my favorite quotes about your staff and your team is from a person named Angela Ahrendts, and she was an innovator when it came to retail. She was in charge of launching Apple Store, and behind the Genius Bar and everything else that they go, there was a retail innovation like we hadn't seen in decades. And one of her main maxims was, if you're going to employ people anyway, why not make them the differentiator? Why not empower them? Why would you want to micromanage people that are smart and that you hire because they're smart? They are not a commodity. And this as a leader was a huge epiphany for me, to take away the whole micromanagement part of what we were doing on a daily basis. And certainly while my team is far away from each other, it is so important that they are treated and know that they are the differentiator in how we deliver our service to our client base. Accountability as an owner is a given, but what I like to start talking about in these cases is mutual accountability. You can place a huge amount of importance on your team, and you can place a huge amount of importance on what they say. And it's one of the most important things for us as leaders to influence a culture, is to be accountable for the things that we do. But it's not a one-way street. We need the staff and the teams to be accountable as well, to not immediately get their backs up against the wall and place the blame on others, like perhaps some unnamed world leaders. That being said, we want to encourage mutual accountability. When leaders hold people accountable and they are accountable themselves, it helps the teams understand that they have a serious effect on everything they do, that they are in control really of their own destinies, that they are expected to do what the leaders are doing as well. And again, in a remote situation, this is a glue that can hold everybody together without question. Under the heading of clarity, like we were talking in the 3 C's, as a leader, we have to keep explaining and giving context to people, because things are changing on a daily basis. It can be incredibly frustrating. And a lot of times you can give direction 3 times in a week. It's happened to us, and that are pushing people in different directions because you're being handed new information all the time. So you want to keep and not get discouraged by that. You want to keep explaining and giving context. Good leaders tell people what needs to be done, and then they let them figure out how to do it. You just want to be clear about what is needed. Great leaders explain why they need to do what they're doing, so people understand the what and the how of the fact that they are doing it. Our team is incredible at what they do. And if they are given the knowledge of why I need them, or the company itself needs them to do a certain thing, and why we need to get it finished at a certain time, if I explain that well, they are far more motivated than if I just slap tasks on people. And certainly when you're in a remote environment and you're coming up with your own motivation, it goes a long way to getting the productivity that you need. We want to encourage innovation and risk-taking. This happens anytime you're doing anything, whether it's at the office or when you're working remotely. This is probably certainly for PACE is the key to our success, is encouraging, what's been noted out there in the industry is entrepreneurship at your organization, with very simple steps like establishing a place where your employees can go with their ideas, an intranet, and stating a no idea is a bad idea policy, gathering support for gathering support for employees, the places they need to try their ideas, and letting them pitch decision makers at the company. And there's very simple ways to do this. You want to model the risk-taking behavior. Leadership, it defines culture. And if we want to create a culture of acceptable risk-taking, then we need to display that kind of behavior as leaders. We also need to be transparent about the risks we're taking and explain why we're taking them, and and any mitigation that we have in case it fails. But when we do that as leaders, the teams definitely can pick up on it, and certainly that's been a lot of our success. Obviously, you want to define smart risks and set limits. You certainly don't want to place life and death decisions of the company on one person in the team. This really shouldn't even have to be said, but again, you have to define your edges, like we had said before. We want to create smart risks. We want to define what a low risk is as opposed to high risk, and how those decisions are being made. The last thing we need is for an entire department, to be taking huge risks that jeopardize the business. Again, it comes to clarity. We need to clearly communicate limits to the risk taking and have procedures in place for reviewing those risks, maybe kind of a risk review board. But that doesn't take away from the importance of giving people the opportunity to do that. In fact, I like to identify our best risk takers at pace, find out who they are. I know exactly who they are, and unleash them, get them to do what they do. Risk taking is a behavior, really. It's not a process. It's very hard to kind of teach that. So, identifying who your best risk takers are and encouraging them to continue to take smart risks. The more people who are modeling that, the quicker and easier it is for everyone to start modeling it. It's also good to have them, acting as mentors to other members of the team, trying to teach people how to take smart risks. We have one of our best support technicians had taken on this year a huge amount of training on his own. Went in and got himself trained up on about 8 different ways to Sunday to get himself up to where he needed to be, and started writing scripts and innovating solutions that were affecting the entire team and making everyone's job easier. Obviously, we're going to get onto that. We had recognized that and rewarded that, because it's definitely the kind of behavior we want to reward. But it starts to inspire other people, and along those lines, obviously, you want to create a safe environment for taking risks. As leaders, we are tempted to kind of go to a place where we're afraid of seeing the mistakes that people make. And it's a real mindset to kind of get your head wrapped around the fact that you want to actually give them the room to make reasonable amounts of mistakes. You need to create a safe environment to do that. It means not punishing people who take smart, acceptable risks and fail. We want to support them. You want to support that behavior. You want to help them learn from the mistakes. You want to encourage them more than anything to try again. It's a difference between smart, acceptable risks and high risks. And certainly when you can what we try and do during our all staff meetings on Fridays is we kind of address these wins and failures as well that we have out there in the world, and it gets brought up in front of the whole team. And certainly those kind of things are taken very lightly, and we joke around with people and tease them, but we always try to point it back to our values, which is essentially looking at things from the client's perspective and ensuring that we are doing the best possible thing for the client. And if taking that risk was in the best case scenario of the client, then absolutely it was worthwhile. And that goes to, obviously rewarding smart failures. We want to reward every smart failure. We want to encourage people to be able to continue to do that. This is one of my favorite ones, holding a jam session. I like to use a music analogy whenever I can. So every organization has a culture defined by its rhythm and its harmony, and the culture that you as a leader have created, much like music. So what you want to do is try and be as spontaneous as possible as well. Certainly you want to schedule meetings because people have other things going on and other meetings they need to attend, so you have to do that. But you want to also add some spontaneity to this when you're working at home in front of your computer by yourself during the day. Ad hoc meetings are great with multiple team members on a specific theme that can easily inspire creativity and innovation. Maybe holding it, I've done it a couple of times, certainly in the past couple of weeks, where we've had meetings with 3 or 4 people that would not necessarily be meeting at the office in a more of a formal way. They may have a conversation, out in front of the cubicles or in somebody's office, but they can't do that now. So we want to kind of inspire that, and we want to kind of encourage that. So having the ad hoc meetings and throwing around ideas and just having conversations, basic water cooler conversations, goes a long way to stirring up innovation. Exponential appreciation. Obviously, everybody wants to feel appreciated. That is a no-brainer. We don't even need to really go too far into that. But it's so much more important now when we're all isolated in our own places. It's easy to overlook what's going well when you're not seeing everybody all the time. So we really have to make an effort to make a practice of highlighting wins and giving positive feedback, twice as often as it seems normal. We build pace around that whole idea. Every Friday, we were all together having an all-staff meeting, and even now we're on Zoom meetings on Fridays at exactly the same time. The routine has not been interrupted. It's mandatory. Everybody is out there, and we share our wins and losses and sadness and happiness, and become a team sitting together for the first time. It feels like normalcy at the office. We have an application that we use within the office called Crewwho that essentially invites the team members to give kudos to their colleagues for helping them out during certain things. And this happens not just remotely, but at the office as well. But it's increased, obviously, while we've been away from each other, because everyone is going out of their way to ensure that they're still appreciated. And it's gone a huge long way to be able to keep morale where it needs to be when we're all sitting remotely. Personal check-ins is mandatory. And this is something that I kind of moved into a little bit over the last couple of weeks as this has gone on, is actually, as the CEO, scheduling daily, 2 or 3 minute meetings with the staff where we're checking in and making sure that everyone is staying on track. Obviously, depending on the size of your organization, this may or may not be, a weekly thing, certainly not a daily thing or even a bi-weekly thing, but you can find your own rhythm. And believe me, your team wants to sit with you one-to-one and have a conversation. As much as you may not have the bandwidth, or you think you don't have the bandwidth to do it, when your team is working remotely, this is the most important thing you can do to ensure morale, is as a leader, talk to the staff one-on-one. On a less formal end, you send a quick message to each team member asking how they're doing and if there's any area they need support. I'm a huge proponent of mental health advocacy, and it's very personal to me and it's very important to me. So PACE is built largely around ensuring that our staff is mentally well as much as they are physically well. In an environment where you're getting phone calls and emails and tickets coming in from people who are frustrated about certain things on their machines or their network, it's even more important to be able to keep that morale up. Personal check-ins with your team gives them the knowledge that you support them on a personal basis. It gives you the impetus to ensure and remind them that even though you're a leader, you're a human being just like they are, and they want to be treated like a human being just like they do. Being vulnerable, honest, transparent. In other words, be human. This for me, is the most important part of what we do. And certainly I attribute it to us winning the Best Places to Work awards and being asked to speak at many different organizations and events, is that it can be counterintuitive to being a leader, is holding things in, is not necessarily giving people all the information about your company, about the direction, about the decisions that you're making and why you're making those decisions. The more transparent that you become to your staff at this time is crucial to helping your employees feel respected, valued, and trusted. This is the time they need to see you vulnerable. When you provide the right level of transparency to your employees, you show them that you're an honest leader that's willing to communicate openly with them and set the example that they would do the same thing with their coworkers. I have made a distinct effort over the past 2 decades in the companies that I have engaged in running, in being honest about a lot of personal things to ensure people understand where my motivations are in keeping pace running the way it does, and in making choices the way that we make choices for pace. And it gives people insight that they have never seen before. And again, it starts to humanize the leadership. And that can be the hardest thing that gets done, is humanizing the leadership. So when you're talking to people and you are trying to be as clear as you possibly can about the direction that you're going in and that you're taking pace in, or that you're taking your company in, you have to remember that is the most important thing. You're showing your humanity. And when we're all sitting alone and isolated, humanity is what we're all craving. And it may seem a little airy-fairy to some leaders on this, but trust me, it means a huge amount to the team, and it ends up meaning a huge amount to you, because people get very grateful at times like this, that they can touch a leader that they're having to deal with on a regular basis. And this is one of the best books that I've ever read. Certainly anyone who knows me knows I'm a huge Patrick Lencioni fan. He writes the greatest books on a business leadership that have ever been written. They can be read in 2 or 3 hours. They are based in, small maxims and fictional situations that mirror real time and real life situations. And he's just really good at capturing the essence of leadership. And he says, an unshakable leader who never shows a sign of weakness can actually come across as being cold and unapproachable. That is the key to taking this away. And you have to admit your weaknesses. You admit the errors that you make. You take accountability. You show what your limitations are. Because believe me, they probably already know. So if you want to get more information on this, or really figure out why transparency and vulnerability is important, not just to your team, but to your client base, go out and buy Getting Naked by Patrick Lencioni. I know it's a weird name, but it's not what you think it is. And with that, I think that I've addressed everything that people had submitted as far as questions go. And I certainly welcome the opportunity to answer any questions that anyone may have. So feel free to submit some questions, and we can go forward with answering. Well, there's no questions. I must have actually covered everything I possibly could. All right, it looks like we got some on the chat here. Oh, well, thank you very much. Some people are saying that it was terrific and very inspiring. I certainly appreciate that. And we've got some clients saying some great things. Okay, I appreciate all of those things. Thank you guys so much. But certainly if you have questions, Linda has asked if we have more webinars coming up. We have a webinar every week. You can visit our website to find out what those are. And we're trying to make them as current as possible. So a lot of times we don't even know what they're going to be until 2 or 3 days beforehand. So please keep up with us. If you have any questions about what the webinars are, feel free to email Mike, M-I-K-E at pacetechnical.com, and he can put you in touch with our marketing team who can fill you in on everything. Mike says the next one is emergency preparedness. So there you go. So we have lots of them coming up. Would it be possible to get a recording of this webinar? Absolutely, we are recording it. As far as I know, I'm recording it. I got a little cloud with a little red dot on my display here, so I'm assuming that it is. And it will be available. I think that Mary Ellen, our marketing coordinator, ends up sending out an email with a link to that to everyone here, and certainly you can share that out with people. Great. All right, if there isn't any other, do we have any advice on how to encourage your vice president to be more transparent during these times? That's a great question. My best advice on that is modeling, is making sure that the VP sees you as a leader. Unless you're not a leader, it's an anonymous attendee who's submitting this. If you're a CEO or a president and you need to encourage someone who is working down the hierarchy to be more transparent, it's all done by modeling. It's showing your own transparency and vulnerability, and then showing how successful it can be when you do that. That's where certainly we've seen, I'm going by my own experience, when I've been able to model those kind of things to other people, they end up taking it on and having great success with it. Thanks for the question. Has Pace business slowed during COVID, or has it increased? If it's slowed, what is Pace doing to prepare for the end of COVID and increase in demand? That's a great question, Jim. Thank you very much. Pace's business we were very grateful that we made the right decisions early on in creating a diverse client base, as well as being completely prepared for a crisis and moving off site when we had to, which means our entire staff is equipped with laptops and soft phones, and we were able to get our entire organization up and running in less than 48 hours while when the announcement was made that everyone was working from home. So that was great. Has business slowed? We've got some clients that have experienced some trouble. And certainly, we've had to make adjustments in our business for that. Is it increasing? We've had certainly some interest from outside. We have had our clients have been so amazing to us during this period, giving us kudos and being very forthcoming in how much they appreciate what we've done to ensure that they've been able to get their jobs done without really a whole lot of disruption. And they've passed that along to other people, because this is the time when the cream or the wheat is separated from the chaff. The cream rises to the top. The IT companies, the managed service companies that could get their clients working with basically seamlessly, now are very evident, a big differentiator to the other companies. And the companies that had IT companies that were giving them issues, a lot of issues from their IT and not getting them up in time, well, those people are now coming to us and people like us to find out, hey, why did these guys have such success getting their client base up, and why am I going through such a problem? What is Pace doing to prepare for the end of the COVID and the increase in demand? Our sales and marketing team has not stopped. A lot of people have, to be honest with you, have gone and reduced their sales and marketing team because they say that the opportunities are far down. Well, they're not for us. They may just not be pulling the trigger right now, but certainly our marketing team and and sales team are out there answering questions and talking to people in virtual sessions. We anticipate a huge increase in demand once everyone is sent back to work, or at least we start going back to work. Thanks for that question, Jim. I appreciate it. What advice do you have for addressing issues virtually? Carlin, thanks for asking that. As far as addressing issues virtually, this is what Zoom and certainly we are, Microsoft Teams is the big tool that everyone is using right now for business. It is just an amazing, it is been a game changer for us. And certainly, we had taken the opportunity to deploy it to most of our clients before we were in this situation, which means that they could pick up and start moving on it immediately and use it. So addressing issues virtually needs to be done not by email. It needs to be done face-to-face, as far as I'm concerned as a leader. And you want to have address those issues virtually during Zoom or during Teams. That would be my basic answer to that question. Transparency, is it difficult to change corporate culture during a crisis? No, that's the easiest time to change corporate culture. This is the time to do it because everyone is more open to ideas, because it's unprecedented what's going on right now. There is literally no precedent. No one can forecast anything. This is the time that people are going to listen to you, but you have to take it seriously as a leader. You absolutely have to take it seriously. This is the easiest time to make a change. The hardest time is when you're in a rut or you've been doing things the same way for a ton of years. You make a change, you do a 180 on your staff, a lot of people fall at the bottom, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But this is the time that everyone is disrupted. So take advantage of the disruption and show them how you are changing the way that your company does business by opening up the transparency. And I know it's scary. It's scary as hell the first time I did it, for sure. But it becomes addictive after a while because you accomplish so much more by being vulnerable and transparent. And at this time, people, like I said before, people want your humanity. That's what they want. Can you give examples of KPIs that you are using from an anonymous attendee? Certainly we can. Every department has its own KPIs. A lot of the ones in our industry are pretty similar. Same day close of tickets, reaction time. One of the other departments, when we have a proactive department out on the road, it's how many proactive visits we're doing, how many standardization checklists we're completing, how much compliance we have within the client base as a percentage, anything like that you can monitor via dashboards makes a huge difference to what you're doing. If you want some more examples of KPIs, I'll give you my email address at the end of this. You feel free to email me personally, and I can provide that to you. What are the biggest challenges for you as a CEO right now? Biggest challenges for us because our company, Mike and I are very, very confident in our team and our culture and our morale. Obviously, it's a lot of work to keep it up, but we're very confident in that. So what we have looked at is survival. Is ensuring that we're in a great place, certainly as a company, but you never want to take anything for granted. You want to make sure that everything is not only set. We have a business coach. We belong to a peer group. We try and take care of ourselves as a company, and our business coaches and our peer groups. We have a 3-phase thing that we're all trying to adhere to now. It's basically there's a surviving phase. There's a business phase, and then there's a thriving phase. It's that's how it's going to go. We're going to make sure that we're able to survive, then we're going to continue to do business and build ourselves, but then we're going to thrive. We're going to take advantage of the opportunities and the risks that this has given us and move forward. So if you want to know that's the challenges I'm dealing with right now. These are great challenges to have. Thanks. A lot of owners have been trying to track employees to make sure that they are still being productive remotely that don't have KPIs set in place. Do you have any other methods to track employees? This is where we talk about humanity and we talk about vulnerability and transparency, because obviously you want to keep track of what people are doing remotely. But you also don't want to be standing over people's shoulders. Anything else as far as tracking employees, you want to track engagement. That's why Microsoft Teams is such a great thing, because it audits conversations, it shows engagement percentages. It's a great tool to have when you're working remotely with a team. You can go back and refer to things very, very quickly. So again, I encourage people, if they don't know what Microsoft Teams is, certainly an elemental Google search will tell it to you, but we can explain it really well. We've deployed it multiple dozens of, probably even close to 100 times over the past few years at this point. So, you know, we're very good at doing it, and we're very good at doing it quickly. So feel free to touch base with us on that. Has the quarantine situation revealed any unique strengths of your employees? Do you have a reward system? Yes. The quarantine situation has, to me, just reiterated to us the level of rock stardom we have with our team. The 30 people that we have are by far the best people that I've dealt with in the 30 years of business administration that I've had, in their commitment, in their loyalty, in their understanding of what we need to do for the clients and how important the client needs are. And they are rock stars. So really, I always knew that, but this has really been a shining revelation to me, because clients who have never stepped up before with feedback in any way have been pouring it out to us. And as far as reward system goes, we send out a survey off of every ticket that gets opened. And there's 3 little smiley faces at the bottom of that ticket, which is a happy face, a kind of, you know, basically good, satisfied face, and a frowny face. And clients can just tick on those. And that gives us the feedback to know whether or not. And if a client ticks on a happy face, there's a certain amount of points that are allocated through this software called Crewhu. It's CREWHU if you want to look it up. And they can gather those points and redeem them for money. And it also works internally, where if someone helps out somebody else within our organization, they can reward them with points. And, you know, the points accumulate, and then, you know, once a month or once every couple of months, you can redeem them. And the staff absolutely loves it, and it encourages them to be supportive of each other. How often should you have transparency meetings with your team? Is it as you go, or is it a weekly thing? So at Pace, it's a weekly thing. We do all staff meetings, and that's an opportunity not just for us to share, for the team to share wins and the department to share wins and challenges. It's also an opportunity for Mike and I to share the State of the Union, so to speak, and changes that have come up, and things that we are experiencing, to make sure that everyone knows where the direction that we're heading, and that nobody has any surprises. The more people are looped in to how you run your business, and certainly it doesn't have to necessarily go down to profit numbers, but the more they're looped in on how they affect your P&L and your balance sheet, the bigger difference it makes to both of those things. Transparency for us, again, is the most important thing that we can do as leaders. So we do it weekly, but I've also been checking in with everybody personally, making my way through our list to kind of make sure we're doing that. And I'm on, my job as the CEO essentially is being on Microsoft Teams every day, all day with the team. And that is, you know, basically what I do, is key morale and focus leader. So transparency isn't just like a meeting. I mean, it has to happen that way, and we do an all-staff meeting, like I said, on Fridays. But transparency is a frame of mind. Vulnerability is a frame of mind. Go out and buy that Patrick Lencioni book now and read it. It will literally take you 3 hours to read, and it changed the way that we did business. Thanks for that question. Comment from one of our great longtime clients, Nitin. He says his team has been exceptional in servicing us through the times. Our change to working from home was seamless and immediate, and we continue to have all of our requirements met. Thank you so much, Nitin. That is, I'm so grateful to hear that, and I know the team is always grateful to hear feedback like that. You know, obviously, this is an example of our client base. I'm going to say he's Nitin and Welcome Home Communications has been with us about 12 years, somewhere in there. Anyway, I think that's it. I think I've got to everybody at this point. I really appreciated all these questions. And again, if you have any questions or further questions for us. Oh, wait, there's one more. Sorry, I'm in middle management. How to address transparency, leadership, employee morale to upper management who isn't very welcoming to these types of ideas. Send them a copy of this, the taped version of this meeting. Send it to them anonymously and see what happens. Really, it takes guts to go up and say that. Say what you're feeling to your ownership. That's the only way that it's ever going to get known. It's not anything that people can get from osmosis. This is actually one of the risks that you need to take as a team member, and hope for the best. If not, maybe you want to go to a place that appreciates you more and that takes care of you better. Thanks. So again, reach out to us. If you have any general questions about leadership and culture, you can email me specifically, Shael@pacetechnical.com. If you want to book a meeting with us, all you have to do is email Mike@pacetechnical.com. And for all of the latest cybersecurity news and content, make sure you visit our website because we are updating it many, many times a day to keep everybody in the loop. Don't forget, you'll get some information on next week's webinar, which is emergency preparedness, and my business partner, Mike, will be doing that one. And again, I encourage you to reach out to me directly. If you have any questions or you want to talk about anything, I'm more than willing to have that discussion. So thanks everyone for joining us, and have yourself a great day.